The Big Footy Port Adelaide podcast is proudly sponsored by New Vision.
My team, Conda, power. I love the power. I love the power.
Hi and welcome to the Big Footy Port Adelaide podcast. This is a weekly show dedicated to all things Port Adelaide Footy Club. I'm your host Macca 19, and what we have tonight is part 2 of our list management Road to a Premiership discussion with Rick and Portia. We will kick it off talking about the midfield. Hope you enjoy. Alright, let's move on and talk about the midfield now. We'll start discussing inside midfielders. Portia, your thoughts?
Look, I think we're actually pretty good in this regard. As far as 2014 is concerned, and the only thing is just making sure we move the chains as players get older and make sure we keep bringing young guys in. I think that Wines has been an absolute revelation for us. I think that, he'll probably might have a couple of down years in the next couple of years, but going forward, he's a good clearance guy. I'm also not really sure how many inside midfielders you really need that are just traditional extractors. You probably need 3 or 4, but beyond that, I'm not really sure that you need many more than that. You really need the guys that can sort of work in that mid-traffic and just sort of get it out once the first guys hit the ball and got it on. As far as age, obviously, Boak is very lonely in his bracket of 100 and 150 games. He's got to do it all at the moment, and that's really unfortunate, but Moore and Wines are going to give him a lot of relief there. I don't see really any issue with our inside mids. I think they've all got a good size to them. Good quality. We've just got to wait and let the experience go up and hopefully get some really good set plays going in the midfield from whoever the midfield coach is this year. So, is that Phil Walsh?
Yes, I believe so.
But then I think we're laughing. I think we're fine as far as inside mids is concerned. And our main concern is going to be getting it forward.
I'm going to go against the grain and say that we probably need to look at another inside mid. That might be an option at the end of the year, and I'll say why. I think that Kasisi's this might be his last, or maybe second last year. Newton and Archie haven't played a game yet. I think it's probably odds on that at least one of them might go at the end of the year. And Young's no sure thing either. I mean, if we lose 3 of them at the end of 2014, we might be a little bit stuck on options there.
Well, I mean, would you talk to someone like Ebert or Broadbent and try and get them into that role?
Spot on. Matty Broadbent can play inside midders, I reckon.
I reckon he could. I reckon he's a pretty good shot.
And I think we're carrying a few too many inside mids. Looking at the previous teams, where they've all been carrying about 4 or 5, and I agree with what we were talking about earlier in the week, Macca, that some of ours are unproven and might not be there, and Kasisi might be retiring. But even if we lost Kasisi, Newton, and Archie, I think Young, Moore, Wines, Boak's enough, and as Portia said, we could flip Broadbent over as an inside mid. And look, Chad's hands and visions are amazing, so he could probably play as an inside mid if we wanted to as well.
Yeah. And I think the other consideration is that, look at Kasisi. He was drafted as a wingman, not as an inside midfielder. Guys develop as they get the body, as they get older. You can see which ones have got the ability to work in traffic and which ones haven't. And we've got a whole bunch of guys that we can just really try out. With the Kasisi at 30 and Corns at 30, these are 2 of our guys that are quite constantly in the contest. We'll see some holes open up. Maybe we get someone like a Burn Jones or an Impey, if we're really lucky, getting in there. I know Jonas got played in a tagging role earlier this year, and maybe he's got a chance of maybe, becoming an inside mid just by default, by the fact that he's got an opponent in midfield, and he can dispose from there. We'll really just see. I think the proof's in the pudding for this one. I don't think we can really plan for it, but I think that as far as the elite inside mids, our first choice ones, I think we're fine, but I think, I agree that we could do with a bit of depth there, but we might have that and we just don't know it.
I'm pretty happy with the players that we've got doing those roles. I mean, Moore could be anything. Wines looks like he could be anything as well. Boak's already a superstar. And you look across the list, except for North 96, they've all got at least one superstar inside mid that we've classified as. You're looking at sort of Gary Ablett, Brett Kirk, Sam Mitchell, even guys like Stephen Williams, Tim Ginniver and Andrew Olsworth were superstar SANFL players in 88.
Yeah. Can I just make a quick aside here, which is that going through these lists, I kept coming back to North Melbourne as one of the worst examples in almost every category, and it just really tells you how good a player that Wayne Carey was, because he carried that side.
Yeah. Well, who's their inside mid-star? Rock?
Well, we had Anthony Rock, and Adam Simpson was pretty young at the time. There was Armstrong as well. I guess Anthony Stevens.
Yeah, Stevens was a bit inside.
Inside as well, and Peter Bell as well, I guess.
Yeah, he wasn't on this list though, was he?
None of them. None of them
I've got
compare.
him in the outside mid.
Oh, there you go. Cool.
Tim Ginniver was the master, though, wasn't he?
He was.
Mm.
Unfortunately, these days, if we were to have a Tim Ginniver, he'd need to grow about 25 centimetres.
Or we'd play him on the rookie list as a super sub.
Exactly. That's it. All right. Well, moving on to the more sort of outside or general mids. How do you think we're situated with them? I think we're situated pretty damn well, to be honest.
Yeah, look, I was a bit more concerned before I started doing this analysis. Again, I sort of was of the belief that you needed to have, really classy flankers coming in as outside mids, and really it looks like the most important things are just having guys that will contribute every week, that won't drop their head and will just be accountable, reliable, and have got the fitness to do the job. And I think we've got those sorts of guys in Ebert and I suppose in Broadbent. I think that's the only thing that I know about White that's coming in. These guys, they can run and they can just be there and they can be accountable. You could do with probably a bit more depth there, I suppose. But I guess that was one other thing among all these Premiership sides that I forgot to say in the first part, which is that they all have a tremendous physicality to them. Not that they go around thumping blokes, but that if you get in the way, you're going to come off worse for it, because you just happen to be in the way. And I think that that's an aspect that we really should be looking to work on. It's just making sure these guys, just every day, they're just out there, they're tackling, they're just hitting hard as they can. Not because they want revenge or because, they think it's tactical or anything like that, but just because it's what you do because you're a Port Adelaide footballer. And I think that guys like Ebert and Broadbent, they're going to do that. And I think they can be a lead for anyone else we decide to bring in that respect. And I know this is unusual to talk about when we're talking about outside midfielders, but look, I think that's going to be a real important thing as far as setting up a machine that can grind through opponents. We've got a bit of class there in Wingard. It would be nice maybe to have a little bit more, but I'm not sure that we necessarily need a lot more than that. But it would be good.
I think Polek, Wingard, Broadbent, Harlett and Ebert is a fantastic core group to have going forward. And look, they're going to be ready in probably 2 years' time. They'll be pretty much at their peak, I think.
Yeah, well...
Don't forget White too.
Well, White's on there as well, and obviously Colquhoun and a couple of others. But I think they're the real core that you look for. Those 5 players are the core that we're going to look at going forward.
I guess the other thing I'd really like to see is another long kick. That'd be really good to see, because we've got Hartlett there. Wingard's pretty good. But if we could just get another outside mid that can just really barrel it, that'd be fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, that's what Polek's for, isn't it? That's
Well,
his job.
We'll see.
Yeah, not convinced?
Look, I'm really unconvinced because his form wasn't great and I didn't really like him as a junior, but, I could be wrong. It happens.
It's good that you can admit it.
Oh, yeah.
You're doing better than me. I mean,
we match up very well against the other Premiership sides that we've looked at here. I think we match up incredibly well.
Oh, I think we're already...
It's only really maybe Geelong with their Bartel, Corey, Kelly triumvirate.
Yeah, but Kelly was playing in defence most of the time anyway, wasn't he, at that point? No, Corey was, sorry. Corey was playing in defence mostly anyway.
No, I agree with you, Macca. I think the outside mid, the numbers and the games played's almost there. It sort of stacks up pretty well. And I also agree with Portia about it's a whole mentality thing. And I'm taking us way off the topic of football with cricket. But if you look at the current Ashes series, how our mindset has just changed as a playing group from me to actually standing up for themselves and being intimidating. And I think, Portia, I think that's what you're saying about, even though they're outside mids, it's the same thing. They've got to stand up for themselves and they've just got to roll through people to get to the pool instead of being that loney type where you just sort of hang out and wait for it to come to you. So I agree completely. And but I think we've got the players there now that should have the confidence in their physical attributes to be able to play that style of play.
Yeah, look, I guess the only thing I'd quibble about there is the terminology. I don't think they should be standing up for themselves because I think they should just be innate to them. They should just be ploughing through anyone that gets in the way. That's really the way to look at it. It's not personal. It's not that, you might have a sign of weakness if you don't stand up for yourself. It's that, you've got a job, you know what you need to do, and you're going to do it. I think that's the way to look at it, and I think that's the way they're being trained to look at it. Not give up, just keep going.
Yep.
And I think it helps that Ebert and Broadbent are old-time Port fans as well. I know that we don't recruit for that, but, gee, it's really nice that they've got that ethos there and they understand how it works.
Yep. Look at utilities, I guess.
Yeah. Now, in this category, look, I kind of disagree with how they've been categorised. I think that Heath and Jonas, I think they can play as utilities, but I'd really just have them as defenders, quite honestly. That's my first consideration. Paul Stewart, we already talked about how he's been a little bit disappointing. And yeah, he's a utility, but he's basically going to be an interchange player if he comes in. The remaining guy is, I suppose, my favourite player, Cam O'Shea, good old O'Shizzy. Our answer to Adam Goods, hopefully. He was fantastic this year. I think that he's got a lot of confidence up, and I think that's important for a player in his role. And look, it'd be nice to have another one, but that's a luxury I don't think any of the clubs in this dynasty list have really got. They've usually had one really good utility, if any, and then that's been it. So, yeah, we're in a lucky situation. He's going to be a unique matchup for us going forward, and we just need to make sure he's got the support he needs as far as not getting caught out by his opponent, making him look like an idiot. I think at offences they get experience, they'll be better at that. And, the sky's the limit, basically, is his performance. He's going to be our Andrew Embley in a way. When we're really bad, he's probably going to look awful, and when we're really good, he's going to look like the best player in the world.
Yep. Fair call.
Sydney's only really had the main star utility, haven't they?
Yeah.
With Goods.
Well, yes, yeah.
You could argue
they had Goods. I think North had Craig Scholl, who was a very, very good footballer. You know, I think he was an old Australian or at least a Victorian representative centre-half back, and then kicked a lot of goals at centre-half forward as well.
Yeah.
The others, I mean, you're looking at sort of Max Rook, who was a bit more of a brute. Osborne as well, could sort of swing small forward, small defender, and Port 88, you're looking at sort of maybe just Richard Foster really. Meady hadn't played a game yet, and Tyler was sort of struggling as a too small sort of key forward or key defender at that point in time.
He was behind Stuart Hodges. I think that was the only real problem.
Yeah, well, that too.
But utilities, I think we're fine. It'd be nice to have another really good one, but I don't think we need to go nuts and draft 4 of them.
That's it. Well, on to rucks. I think we're looking pretty okay. We could probably do with another young one to develop.
Yep.
But in terms of our main rucks, I think we're looking pretty good.
Yeah, look, I've been absolutely astounded by how Lobby's come on. I think the Toots Hibbets must be haunting him and making him perform, because I never thought he had this season in him. I've seen him in previous seasons. He was just such a dumb ruckman. He'd get in arm wrestles that he was going to lose, and he'd get tangled up and all sorts of things. It was really disappointing. He looks like he's finally learnt that he has a big body, that he can not necessarily get caught up if he doesn't need to. And I suppose the ruck rules have changed a little bit to avoid that as well, avoid the wrestling. And he's just come forward absolutely brilliantly as a ruckman that can get it to the target. So, look, he's great as a number 1 ruck. I'm still very happy with Redden. I think that he's got a lot of potential still. I liked him when we drafted him. I still like him now. I haven't seen anything that have made me think anything other than he'll be a good, competent ruckman for us. I agree with you, Macca, though, that we really could have considered drafting another guy. I guess going back to our 2000s series of ruck injuries, we've had it happen before. We've had 2 ruckmen injured, and then we've been relying on the 3rd and 4th. So it's unfortunate, but it's a position I would love to have just that one more guy about 20 years old, or even have an old guy that's about to retire. Someone there that can just be that extra stopgap, and I don't really rate Renouf to do that. I guess, though, again, we're talking about the Tools draft next year. And we're looking at a Premiership window. We're talking about having 2 or 3 mature ruckmen by, say, 2017, 2016. Yep. Then if we draft one next year in the rookie draft, we'll draft 2 in the rookie draft next year. There's a reasonable chance that we'll have something that can at least be a fill-in ruckman in case something happens to Redden or Lobby in any given season. But I think that our top 2 guys, look, I think they're as good as any in the competition, really.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think everything you said spot on. It's just we probably could do with another young one coming through for depth, and when you compare the previous sides, they all seem to have 4 players as ruckmans on their list, except for North Melbourne in '96, where they had McKernan and Campuano, and that was it. But I guess if the club didn't think there was anyone there to fill that need, I guess why fill a spot with someone that they don't think is capable anyway, I guess. So, but I hope, same with the forward argument, maybe next year we look at bringing someone in, and maybe that's the mature age that we could get in for a bit more depth, target a mature age ruckman to give some bit more backup. I'm of the same opinion. I'm just not convinced on Renouf, and I found him underwhelming since he's come here, and one thing I thought was he was going to bring a lot of physicality, and I haven't seen that from him. I thought that's what he was all about as a ruckman, and I was going to use the word insipid, but that's probably a bit too severe. But I'll just say, he's been very underwhelming for me from a physical viewpoint. So, and I also agree. I think Redden and Loeb are going to take us forward for, the next 5 to 8 years quite easily. So it'd be nice to just see someone come in behind them and start doing their penance and working their way up. So in 4 years' time, Loeb will be 28 going 29, and the next one will be coming through.
Yeah, and just this one other thing I just thought of it then, which is why I didn't mention it before. As far as free agency is concerned, if that keeps going forward the way it has been, I think we're in a really good situation to potentially see ruckman as the best sort of free agent you can get. The way free agency works is not on games played, it's worked out on seasons on the list. So you can quite often get a development ruckman that has 3 or 4 years before he even plays a game. He's still got probably the same number of games in him as someone younger that's a midfielder and plays from 18. So you could get some real value with a high price ruckman, turning 27, isn't it? 26, 27. You could still get a solid 5 years out of any ruckman that you get as a free agent. And I don't know that's necessarily one available next year, but I think that in coming years we're going to see those guys as a really viable option. If you need something worked out for you, getting those big ruckmen in as free agents, because you get a lot of value out of them.
Well, I think a lot of Premiership sides have had that. Sort of recruited, sort of mid-age to later age ruckman.
Darren Jolly's a classic one there, isn't he?
Well, yeah, even Jason Bowl as well. Stephen King, or Brad Ottens as well.
Yep, absolutely.
I mean, there's quite a lot of options there, I think. I think probably 2014 would be the year to draft a ruckman if we're going to do it.
Yep.
Just so that in that sort of 3 or 4 years' time they'll be 22 and ready to go. But I do like your free agency plan as well there. I think that's a good one.
Should we go straight into free agency?
Yep, let's do it.
Okay. Well, look, we're looking at free agency for the 2014 off-season now, and I'm just going to go straight into where I finished. Todd Goldstein's is a free agent this year. North Melbourne ruckman. He's exactly the sort of guy you'd be talking about as someone that's got a lot of years ahead of him. What would you reckon?
Isn't he negotiating a new contract?
He can negotiate all he wants, but we can start making offers now, can't we? We thought that Alan Richardson was on for another year, but St Kilda kept talking to him, so we'll find out.
True, very true. Well, maybe North Melbourne are keen to throw a new contract.
Yeah, that could easily be it, couldn't it?
Would that spell the end for, if we went for like Goldstein though, wouldn't that spell the end for maybe Redden?
No. Why would we not have 3 good ruckmen, especially if Redden, as we've just talked about earlier this podcast, if Redden gets a bit of time up forward? Look, honestly, I love ruckmen. If they're good ruckmen, and if you got 3 mature ruckmen that you can justify playing in your side in other positions, which we know that Lobby could play a bit of centre half back sort of position, Redden could go forward. That's a huge strength. I mean, I know that guys like Wines and Wingard would absolutely love the ball tapped down their throat. Imagine how deadly that would be.
You couldn't carry all 3 in the one side, though, surely.
Well, we did it back in 2003 and 2004, didn't we? We had, Brogan, Primus, French, Lade, all bobbing around the place occasionally. I don't know.
You forgot your favourite player, Kane Ackland.
I'm sorry. Yeah. Look, I liked Kane Ackland, but I can't remember who it was on the port board that said that he was going to be an All-Australian one day. I'm not sure who it was.
Oh, God.
In what sport?
Me. I really hope that wasn't me.
Yeah. Anyway, back on other free agents. Todd Goldstein, as I mentioned. There's a couple of other interesting ones coming up, and I suppose this goes back to the defender thing that I discussed earlier about how maybe we didn't need to draft one in. There's guys like Gary Ibbotson from Fremantle. It'd be really nice to get a piece of that Fremantle intellectual property from defence coming in, and he's a sort of hole that we do sort of have. Harry O'Brien, I know that most people hate his guts, but I'd love to just throw an offer in there and see what we could get.
Get his name right.
What, Harry Lumumba? Heritier Lumumba, wasn't it? Or something like that.
That's the one.
And, of course, the obvious one, Shannon Hearn. He'd be a good pickup. Obviously, South Australian guy. He's very level-headed and he's, right in there as far as fitting our defensive group. Bryce Gibbs, I suppose we could go for, but I just don't think we would have the money or the off-field capital to really draw him in. Not enough better opportunities. I think
he would be my number one option.
I think in our current defence, he'd be a fantastic option for us. Absolutely. I just sort of think at the end of the day, I just don't think we could get him.
I'd play him as an inside midfielder.
Really?
Yep.
Okay. Look, honestly,
I reckon he's played his best football.
Yeah.
In the guts. That's when he's played his best footy.
Well, look, I mean, you'd be having to pay enough to get him over that you'd want him to be able to play pretty much anywhere, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
You'd have a huge price tag on him. And it wouldn't just be the the actual free agent cost, but he'd want to know that he was getting a hell of a lot of media money off the field as well, and that would be quite hard for us to promise, I think. But those are sort of my main ones. What do you guys got on your list for free agency?
Well, I had number one Bryce Gibbs. I think he'd be the perfect fit in terms of both age, experience, games played, type of player that we need. I think he's number one and should be number one on our priority list.
Yeah.
The only other one I had was Shannon Hearn, and I think he again would look pretty good playing in the midfield, but would suit a half-back flank pretty well as well.
Absolutely.
And it goes back to that point you made about having another player that can really hoof the ball.
Yeah, very true.
Well, Mission Impossible and REH were both big fans of trying to target Ben Reid and trying to get him in.
I love Ben Reid, but I just don't think he's going to be a viable option. I can't see him leaving Collingwood, to be honest. I can't see him leaving Victoria.
The other enigma, talking about small forwards, would be another injury-prone small forward, Portia. Sean Higgins.
Oh, yeah, no.
I'm not into him either. I think clearly a lot of people on our board are very interested in it, and you can see why, because when he's fit, he's a very good player.
I think
but he's just not fit enough, and I don't know. There's just something about him that I don't like.
Well, I think the main thing I don't like about him is his durability and the fact that if you're going to get a free agency in this market, you're going to have to offer him 3 or 4 years. I just don't see the value in that.
Well, what about Hansen? He'd be another one to look at anyway.
I suppose you'd look at him. I don't know. I think if he was going to leave, he'd stay in Victoria.
You're keen on Andrew Walker as well, aren't you, Portia?
Oh no. I know that he's turned into a pretty good player since we had that chat about him drafting him a few years back. But I don't know. I just don't see the value being there for us, really. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong.
No.
I probably am.
No, I'm with you.
Hansen would be the perfect fit in terms of again age and experience in the forward one. He would be the perfect fit, and that would be a massive coup if we could get him. But again, sort of like Reid, I just can't see it happening.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
But surely, if the team buzzes again this year, and so really proves that we're on the up, and we've got the money in the bankroll to offer Ben Reid good coin, surely he'd have to consider it.
I guess he'd consider it, but he'd probably have a pretty equivalent offer staying in the same state he's already in. That's the main problem you face with luring away the Victorian guys.
Yeah. It's a bit different with someone like White, who's a fringe player, and we've offered him game time, and 4 years you're going to play games. I mean, Reid's an All-Australian. He's going to play for Collingwood. He's part of their first team for as far as the eye can see, really.
Yeah, exactly.
So there's nothing really that we can offer him in terms of playing games. It would just simply be money, really.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, if you're going to do money, I mean, there's other teams that worse run than us that have got a very good reputation for doing things like that. I reckon Richmond would be willing to give him a huge amount, for no real reason. They would just do that because that's Richmond. That's what they do. Yeah. I think we could be. It's with 10 Victorian teams in any given year, 2 or 3 of them are going to be totally shit, and they're going to be thinking, "Let's throw all our money at this big Victorian player and turn it all around." That's the problem with the Victorian-based guys.
So I guess what we should talk about is really an overview now of where our list is at, and the real pressing needs, I guess, and therefore who's likely to leave at the end of the year, and what our draft wish list for 2014 should be.
I've got my off-season changes, assuming that there's no obvious change in form. We're going to see Kasisi go retirement, most likely. Delist Hitchcock, probably Archie, I don't reckon he's got it. Paul Stewart, you probably get rid of. Stevenson, I would almost certainly get rid of. And Newton, I don't think he's going to make it. So you're looking there basically at a couple of midfielders and a bunch of flankers, and a couple of tall flankers there specifically. So using the old what you drop is what you recruit method, we might have a bit of that in mind. I guess that you've got the possibility of getting a key position forward. It'd be really nice to do that, I suppose. I wouldn't be against it, but I'm just not sure that it's really going to work out as far as timing is concerned. It's a huge risk for us, and if we're going to do one, we probably should do a couple. I don't know, or maybe not. It's a tough call. I don't have an answer for it yet. As we discussed before, ruck option on the rookie list, 1 or 2, definitely. Goal-kicking midfielders, I still like that. as an option, just to boost our secondary midfield and also maybe as in the forward line, because we've got those injury-prone guys like Gray and I know that what's his name, Monfrey's played pretty well for us last year, but he has got a pretty bad track record of unfortunately getting injured. Those are probably, I suppose, the most main target I'd have is just that really good long kicking or goal kicking midfielder and a key position forward. I definitely don't want to see us draft any third tours at all for the next 3 years comfortably. They've got to have genuine height, or we don't bother. Yeah,
I agree with Stevenson going.
Mm.
I think, and I agree with Stewart. If he can't show it this year, I don't think he can. And Hitchcock and Cassisi, I mean, there's probably 4 key targets. I'd probably be inclined to give Archie one more year after this year, depending on his curve for this season. Though, I mean, if he just fizzes for the whole season, yeah, fair enough. But if there's an upward curve, because he's still young, he's only 19, and he has been he has had an injury which has been holding him back a little bit. And I just, we drafted him as a young player. So I think we've got the coverage to maybe keep him on the list another year, unless there's going to be so much value add. And I'd be keen to probably get rid of Renouf and get 2 other different type ruckmen on to see something different as well.
Yeah, well, with Archie, I suppose he's one of the guys that's really going to benefit from the new reserve structure, because I think that's going to give us a lot of opportunity to focus the guys at SNFL level in the areas that we actually think they could play in AFL level, which I think is not currently the case. And I suppose he could really benefit from that, having a mock structure that's similar to the AFL team of sorts, that he can go, okay, this is my role, and we can see how he can perform in that role. And if that role that we've decided, that's your role, Archie, and if he doesn't do well, then it makes it a very easy decision to cut him. But at least we'll have some idea now that it's under our control how he plays and where he plays.
Yep. Well, that's exactly right, because I had a chat to him earlier in the year, and he was saying it's a bit difficult to get a shot with the Port Magpies midfield in 2013 with the midfielders that they were playing. So you're spot on the money. Now with the reserve side structure, if that's what they want, they should be able to get more opportunity for him to play that role now.
Yeah.
They'll be playing him as a starting centreman, you would think.
You'd hope
in
so.
The reserve.
And you'd have Sam Gray, obviously, in the guts.
Oh,
Yeah.
But I guess as the reserves, you've got an opportunity, I guess, to more so take Gray out of the guts instead of being the dominant midfielder, put him onto a flank to give the other guys a bit more of an opportunity.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of angst about that, I think. I think that we've sort of been all going one club, but I think there's going to be a lot of Magpies fans that are going to be annoyed by some of the changes that get made in the coming years.
Yeah, but...
well, they'll have to deal with it, won't they?
Oh,
really?
That's my view. We certainly shouldn't be pandering to them.
Well, I pretty well agree with most of the delistings there. I think one of Archie or Newton will go, one will stay. I think Cassisi will retire. I think Logan will leave, whether he retires or gets delisted. If we want to bring in this young defence, I just don't really see a spot for him in the side anymore, to be honest.
Yeah, well, look, I mean, I think that you keep Logan around for the same reason that we've kept Logan around this long, which is that you've got to be better than him to get your spot. I think that's exactly the role he plays in this set team. I like the idea of, Impey getting games, but if he can't beat Logan out of his position at 28 and as a guy that's been on one-year contracts since forever, maybe he doesn't want it enough. Maybe he can wait a year.
Yep, that's fair enough.
Well, the finals team, Tom Logan, deserves to be in the round one side. I thought,
Absolutely.
I know I've been his biggest critic over the journey, but I can't knock him for that. The second half of the year and in the finals, I thought he was bloody excellent, and he deserves his shot to start and I'm sure he'll bring his fitness back during the pre-season. So, and you're right, it's up to those boys to knock him off, because we all know his disposal can be questionable at times. So if these boys are half decent and they can show they've got the usage of the ball and the disposal and the fitness, well then they should be able to surpass him quite quickly.
Yeah, absolutely.
He needs to have a good year to stay on the list, and I think with Logan, his whole career at Port Adelaide's pretty much gone good, poor, good, poor, good, poor. He had a good year this year. he's due for a poor one going by his history next year, and I don't think he can afford that.
Well, okay, here's a weird one. Let's say that he does get listed at the end of 2014. Do we have a capacity to add him as a rookie in case of injury?
I think you can add anyone, can't you?
Well, I don't know. I'm not too familiar with that rule. But, I mean, if we did that, that'd be a pretty good guy coming in for someone that gets injured. You know, having Tom Logan come in, that'd be pretty good. And he'd be playing in the reserve side all the rest of the time. Sorry, the Magpies. So, yeah, look, he could get dumped from the main list, sure. But, you know, why wouldn't you keep him around? Because he's got the character and he's got the work ethic that you need.
Yeah.
If Newton really stepped up to the plate this year, he'd be one that I'd almost consider looking for a trade too, if we can.
He's not going to do enough in 1 year to merit a trade, I wouldn't have thought. I don't know. If he's done enough in 1 year to merit suddenly being trade-worthy, he's probably worth keeping. The guys that you want to trade are guys that you think are probably near their peak, because that means you're going to get the optimum value for them. And ideally you get them when you think they just hit their peak and they're on the way down. Look, I know that it's going to be really unpopular, but every year I sort of think, you know, maybe we should consider seeing what we could get for Robbie Gray. I know he's a good player. But at the end of the day, his durability is always going to be questionable, and maybe we could get something, you know, fairly decent for him.
Might be a bit late now, though, don't you think? He'll be, 26 on his way to 27?
Yeah, well, you know, we just gave White, the 26-year-old, a 3-year contract, whatever it was, or, you know, I think he's certainly in that area that a club could say, yep, he's the sort of guy we need to take a chance on, and he's going to come for us, you know, maybe fairly cheap, or I don't know.
What did Richmond get from us for White, though?
I don't know.
He's a free agent.
Exactly. So Robbie would probably fit that same category, wouldn't he?
I suppose he would by then, wouldn't he? Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, fair enough. We probably have missed the boat there.
Yeah, I actually wanted to put him up the year of his injury. I thought that was a good opportunity to. That's when his value I thought was highest, and I thought he was replaceable. But I think we've missed it now. I can't see. I don't know what there is. You know, I mean, what would you trade? I mean, if Butch has a breakout year, you're not going to trade him, are you? You know, and you know, you're not going to trade O'Shea. So I don't know who would we offer up.
Well, I know that you were offering Young before this podcast, weren't you? Again, if he's the sort of guy that
What are you saying?
Young, Aaron Young,
What?
Aaron Young.
That was me, I think.
Oh, was it? Sorry, Macca. Sorry.
Yeah.
No, it was Rick. It was Rick. I'm sure.
Yeah, it was me.
Yeah.
I'll fess up. I did. I said if Young and Newton stepped up to the plate, I said we should maybe look at offering them up and seeing what we could get. But I don't know if it would return enough to warrant either. Maybe the other one could be Andrew Moore. Do we, you know, if he steps it up, do we try and use that as a lever to get access to a higher draft pick?
Well, if we want to trade for needs, then look, I'd say someone like Andrew Moore or Matt Broadbent might be a tradable option.
Yeah.
Down the track. Not that I'd probably want to, but you know, if things don't turn out well with our key forwards and we desperately need to bring one in, then that might be an option that the club needs to look at.
Just in the idea of, you know, someone having a good season and us trading him, I guess Pittard would be in that category. If he has a pretty good season, he'd be one of those guys you could consider.
Portia, I've told you this already. You just leave him alone. Leave the Jasper alone.
I like him, but I'm just saying, if you're looking at that sort of mid-age guy, you know, you think he has a good year and you think, well, that's pretty close to his potential, you might say, yep, this is the perfect time to sort of look and see what we could get.
No, the Toby Thurston's rule.
Yeah. Oh, God, that was so frustrating that off-season.
What should be now known as the Toby Thurston.
The Toby Thurstons and Damon White, I would have traded both of them. I wouldn't have been saying, oh, gee, you know, only one of them. Trade them both. Would have done it at the time. Shame we didn't do it.
Nearly happened.
Oh, well.
I just have a big soft spot for Jasper and Matty Broadbent. Luckily, I'm not one of the breeders or trade personnel, because I just love both of their style of play, and I just couldn't let them go. But
it's really funny how people go from being ruthless about let's trade this pick to get that, but as soon as that draft pick's got a name, they just can't handle it anymore.
Yes, yeah, I've lost all objectivity, but you know, but I mean, I think someone like Moore might be our best lever. I think he might maybe command a little bit than Jasper as well, if that's what we deem we need to do to get up the draft ranking to get a better pick. That's all on speculation. We perform well too, though.
Okay, here's another horrible one. or a controversial one. If we are actually literally trying to trade up the order, and I'm talking about like trying to go for top 5 or something like that from an okay first round pick, someone like Hartlett. He's got the
Macca and I
pedigree.
were keen.
He's got the
We were
pedigree.
keen last year, weren't we,
I said
Macca?
all year that we should look at trading Hartlett.
Yeah.
But
So,
kind of came good this year.
He did.
but that's the thing.
Hoping he can improve on that.
But that's the thing. He kind of came good, and if he kind of comes good again this year, you sort of think, well, you know, what is he going to be? 24. Yeah, we might make a move now.
Yeah, and he's a type of player that could command a high pick.
Totally agree.
Yeah, and especially because he was drafted early as well. I know people say it doesn't mean anything, but usually what that means is that every recruiter in the AFL has had a look at them and considered them very seriously. And that's what the real value is. They have some knowledge of the player beyond, you know, just their AFL football.
See, he seems pretty popular though. Would he trading someone like him be one of those trades where it might undermine the fabric of the culture of the club?
I think that players getting traded is a reality of AFL football, and I think that rather than that, it might become one of those things that gels the professionalism of the side, because that's how AFL football works at every club in the league, in every code of football as well in the world. All these guys follow EPL, they follow NFL, they follow NBA. They know how it works. It's the profession they're in, and if anything, losing a guy that's a good bloke because he didn't work quite hard enough, or he didn't commit quite hard enough, or he just didn't have it, that's a really good lesson for everyone else, I would have thought. And it's one that we haven't really had in recent years.
No, but look, I agree with you. If he had another uninjured year, unless he wins the Brownlow and helps us win a flag, you'd have to seriously consider, depending on what would be offered up.
Yeah, you'd look to see what's on offer.
Especially if it could attract someone like Tom Boyd, because I tell you what, that depressed me looking at that guy on the draft stage. How big was he?
I know. Yeah. Yep. Totally agree.
He was a monster.
Oh, terrifying.
I guess the thing that now needs to be decided is when are we going to be a premiership threat? What do we need to do to become a premiership threat from now? Is it just time? Is it just getting games into players?
I think that in some areas it's getting games into players. I think that in defence, I think that most importantly what Hinckley needs to do, and I think it's one of the huge tasks for him, is deciding what his first what his first choice defence is going to be. And then just giving as many games to that as possible. You know, if Jonas has a bit of a dip in the mid-season, you don't drop him, you keep him in there because he's going to learn from that experience and he's going to be part of the team and he's going to be working together with the other guys, that sort of thing. So we could see someone like, you know, guys like Stevenson and Stewart that were set on the border. Honestly, I don't want us to get in one of those situations where they play them for 10 games in the hopes we might be able to get a trade for them. I'd rather just give those 10 games to new guys that are coming into the defence. So, yeah, I guess as far as that's concerned, I think it is just a matter of experience. Key forward, it's crossing our fingers and hoping we win cross lotto with one of these guys, Harvey Shaw or Butcher. I don't think there's anything we can really do in 2014 to help with that. Small forwards is just hoping that they stay fit. That's a Burgess one. It's on him. Rucks, they're fine. They're going well. And midfield, I think that's just basically progression. They might have ups and downs, but I think we've got enough there to work with unless we get huge amounts of injuries.
So when do we see us being a premiership threat?
I reckon 2017.
Yep, I think 16 or 17.
Yeah, I think 16 is when we should be contending for top 4 again. But, yeah, 2017 I reckon is the one where we should be top 2.
I'm scared.
Why?
I'm just looking at our sheet, and that key forward column just scares me. It just really scares me. It's like we don't have much there. Even though we've got stuff there, we don't have much there. But if we follow natural progression, I would have thought maybe 15 if we're lucky. But yeah, 16, 17 is probably a realistic possibility if we keep following all the trends. But yeah, there's that key forward spot. It's just really scary.
It's grim.
Especially, well, when it is grim when we're hanging so much on Butcher, and as you said earlier, it's almost not fair on him in a way. But there's such a gulf between Schultz and Westhoff to then Butcher with only under 20 games, and then 2 untried players. I mean, we're really clutching at straws with our key forwards, and that's probably going to be our Achilles heel in relation to really being a credible flag threat, because everyone's, as you guys mentioned earlier, everyone's had a key focal point forward through from 88 with Scott Hodges all the way through to the Hawthorn of 08.
Yeah.
And that's my big worry.
Yeah, and of course a whole bunch of teams that we didn't look at specifically, like you had Lloyd and Lucas at Essendon.
Yeah.
You know, that's another classic
Lynch
one.
and Brown.
Yeah, Lynch and Brown. There's a whole bunch of them.
Yeah.
Lynch and Hansen.
Yeah.
They're all there, basically.
I'm going to lock in 2016 as when we want to be winning or making a grand final at least. So I think this year, if we can make the finals again, look for top 4 in 2015. 2016 needs to be the year where we're going to be making a grand final.
I think we'll have a dip year in the middle there. I think we will. It's inevitable, really.
Yep.
Well,
I would agree with that.
That would have to be this year, really, wouldn't it?
No, I think, okay.
Could possibly be this year.
If you want me to have a guess at a bet at it, I would say that this year we'll probably finish aggressively mid-table, and I think it'll be a 2015 that'll be a dip year for us, and I think that'll get the players focused. They'll think, gee, it's not that easy to make the finals. We've really got to lift our game. 2015, you'll see them, have a pretty good season, maybe finish close to top 4, and then I think 2016 we'll really see hopefully a refocused team with guys like Wingard at 23, 24 years of age, Wines now in his early 20s, Boak 28, right near the end of his tail, but really kicking on. The midfield looks great, the defence looks great, it's just key forward, so, and hopefully in that time we'll have had one of Butcher or Shaw or Harvey just really be that young genius that comes on fantastically that we haven't had since Bowen Lockwood, really, so here's hoping.
The thing is that we do have a very young...
it'd be a prophet of doom.
We do have a very young squad, and it is going to have the opportunity to grow together.
Yep.
In 3 years' time, it's quite possible we're only going to be losing Kasisi, Corns, and Logan in that time, and that's it, really.
Yeah, absolutely.
Of the old guys. So they're going to have every opportunity to grow together as a group, and hopefully we'll taste some premiership success.
Well, that's the aim.
It's been long enough. It's been long enough.
Yeah, totally agree.
It would be disastrous for us to bottom out.
When I was 22 years old, I think, I'd seen us win 9 premierships. And now it's, nothing since. I'm getting anxious.
Honestly, I love winning premierships, but what I'd really love to return to is just being able to go to a game on a given Saturday and know that we're going to steamroll through them. I'd love to be able to go to like a Port Bulldogs game, Western Bulldogs game, and know that we've just got the players that is going to do it. It doesn't matter what they do, we've just got the players in the system that's going to grind them into the ground and just go through there. I would love to have that confidence in the team. I know they try pretty hard at the moment, but that system isn't there. And if we can get a system going, even if we don't get premierships in the next couple of years, I would just love to see that back, because I think that's what builds that real respect, and it builds support, and it builds you towards that premiership, is having a system in place that you can rely on, that works. Even if it doesn't get you premiership straight away, it's something to build on, and we really lack that right now.
Yeah. As much as I love this year, it would have been really nice to have had a couple of easy wins at home.
Yeah, well, not easy wins, but just system wins.
Just so you didn't have to bloody have a heart attack in the last quarter every single home game.
Yeah.
Would have been nice.
Yes, it would.
But the Collingwood game at home was almost that systematic win, though. We were quite dominant for the bulk of that game, and I thought I really saw where our future was with that game.
But how many goals could we get the same way, though? That's the problem, from my perspective. It's good to get goals from everywhere, but that's not a sustainable system. That's my view.
The other thing I wanted to quickly mention too, which was quite topical on the board over the last couple of days, and I'd like to hear your opinion from both of you, is about the Adelaide Oval dimensions. A few people being critical that it's going to be a bit more narrow than Footy Park, and it might reduce the effectiveness of a free-flowing game style.
I would have thought exactly the opposite, really. I think that if you've got a narrow field, then it means that the space going forward is smaller. It probably means there's less room for people to be just runners, and it probably means there's more need for people that can do medium traffic, because you're going to get midfield clog. So if anything, I think we'll probably see more physical football. If you've got a narrower field, you're probably going to see more physical football in the centre, because there's going to be more contesting around that centre band, whereas in the fat grounds, you can run out wide as far as you want. And I think that, we've already seen that, certainly at SNFL level. That was one of the things you can always see at Nord, that they run wide out, and it's ridiculous. I'd love to see a nice long field for Adelaide Oval. I think that'd be really good for our style of football.
What's it shrunk by about? Is it
8 metres, I think,
on the wings,
in width.
8 metres. Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I thought it was 8 and a couple of
I'm all
metres
for
longer.
us playing through the corridor a bit more, to be honest.
It just narrows the zone, so you've got to have either exceptional speed and an ability to cope with an opponent being on your tail, or you're probably just going to struggle. A guy that can run and do nothing more, but he needs to be completely by himself, it's going to be tough for him to break the lines in midfield at the end of the day.
As long as we have a better record there than what we do at Cardinia Park.
Yeah, well...
Yep. Well, that won't be difficult, I don't think.
Yeah, the wind tunnel is going to be a bit of a problem for Adelaide Oval. I'll be interested to see how that plays out as far as our ability to score. If we can get on top of it, and hopefully they'll be training a hell of a lot there leading up to the season, then that could be a real home ground advantage for us, because there's going to be all these teams that come in once or twice a year and they're not going to have any idea how to play that ground. It's going to be quite unique with the hill up there.
Yep.
And I think that could be a real home ground advantage.
Well, not only that, I think those 2 gaps at the southern end are going to play a bit of havoc with set shots at that end of the ground too, because there's going to be a fair bit of wind funneling between those 2 stands.
Yep.
All right. Well, I think that's done it. We've come to the conclusion. 2016-17 is going to be the time frame where we're going to be hoping for a premiership.
The first premiership.
I think we've done well.
Yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. I'm glad you guys agreed with me a lot of the time. It makes my life very easy.
That's it. Well, thanks for coming back on, Portia. It's been great having you
No
back
problem, anytime.
Yeah, you did well.
And Rick, it's always a pleasure.
Thank you very much, mate. No whinging from
Until
me.
next time. No whinging. This is great. Until next time, go the power.
Harport.
Go the power.
Go the power.
He can lift aside. 55 metres out. Here's a chance for Hodges. Can he take it again? He has! Thank you very much.
Which is almost as if the crowd has injected him with adrenaline and pumped him up, Scotty Hodges, because something's happened.
And that concludes our last podcast for 2013. I want to take this moment to give a massive thank you to everyone that's downloaded, streamed or subscribed to our podcast throughout the year. For both Rick and myself, we hope you all have a great Christmas, and we can't wait to talk Port Adelaide with you all again in 2014. Go the power.